Our topic for today is adjacent angles and vertically opposite angles. Now, you should know the word adjacent. Adjacent, if I said something, two people were adjacent to each other, they're next to each other. Two buildings were adjacent to each other, they were next to each other. And the same is true with angles. So when we talk about adjacent angles, we mean angles that are next to each other. And with angles in particular, here's an example of adjacent angles. If we have two angles that are adjacent, then they're going to share the same vertex. Their vertex is the same, and they're also going to share one of their arms. One of the arms is the same. Here's an angle, and here's another angle, and they share the vertex and one of their arms. Complementary angles are a special kind of adjacent angle. Here we have two more angles that are adjacent. They share this vertex. They share this arm right here. But these are special. They're complementary because they are a right angle. So whatever those angles are, they add up to 90 degrees. So for example, if this was a 20-degree angle, then this would be a 70-degree angle because they add up to 90. If this were a 60-degree angle, then this would be a 30-degree angle because they add up to 90. Very similar to complementary angles are supplementary angles. And supplementary angles add up to not 90, but 180. Still adjacent, but they add up to 180. So here are two angles. They share this vertex. They share this arm. But together they add up to 180 degrees. So for example, if this one over here was 140, then this one must be 40 degrees because they'd add up to 180. If on the other hand this was a 30-degree angle, then this must be 150 because they add up to 180. Now, much like complementary or supplementary angles, if we have several angles that all meet together to form a revolution, that is, they all go around all together. So for example, if I had this one over here, and this angle, and this angle, and this angle, and this angle, we know that those angles all together add up to 360 degrees. These add up to 90, these add up to 180, and these add up to 360 because they're going all the way around the circle. The angles in a point add up to 360 degrees. Now we have two other special kinds of angles that are related to each other. They're called vertically opposite angles and perpendicular angles. Vertically opposite occurs anytime you have two lines or line segments that cross each other. Then what you end up with is two pairs of angles. And these two are the same size. Those two that are opposite each other, not adjacent next to, but opposite, across from each other. These two are the same, and these two over here are also the same. Vertically opposite angles are equal. These two are vertically opposite, these two are vertically opposite. We also have, and we've talked about this before, perpendicular angles. Perpendicular angles are at 90 degrees. So when I have these two lines that meet at 90 degrees, then we call those perpendicular angles. Now, we can use this information that we have here to do a variety of different kinds of problems. Let's use some examples. Let's say that I have this drawing, and I tell you that this is a 35-degree angle. Now we know that the whole thing is 90 degrees because it has the little box in the corner. And these two angles must be complementary because they add up to 90 degrees. We know that this one is 35, so all you have to do is say 90. And this one over here we'll call A. If this is 35, we subtract that from 90. And we are left with 55 degrees, which means A equals 55 degrees. That angle is 55 degrees. Similarly, let's say that I had these. I have this one, and I have this angle, and we're going to call this angle B, and we're going to tell you that this angle is 55 degrees. Now we know that these angles are supplementary. They add up to a straight line to 180 degrees. So if they're 180 degrees together, We subtract off the 55, and we borrow 7, 5, 2, 1, 125 degrees, which means that B is equal to 125. One more problem, same sort of an idea. Call this 120 degrees. Now we know these are angles in a revolution. There's 3 angles there, and they add up to 360 degrees. And we know that this one, because it's got a little box in it, that's a 90-degree angle, and this one is 120. And together those and D add up to 360. So we're going to start with 360, and we're going to subtract the 120, which gives us 240. And then we're going to subtract the 90, and that leaves us with, borrow, we're going to have 150 degrees. And that means that D is equal to 150. So they haven't quite drawn my diagram to scale, but you get the idea. If they have to add up to 360, I take off the 2 that I know, and I'm left with 150 degrees. And that is adjacent angles and vertically opposite angles.